One of the most quietly extraordinary contradictions in the entire resurrection narrative sits in two scenes separated by exactly 1 week. Sunday morning, Mary Magdalene encounters the risen Jesus in the garden. She reaches toward him. He says, "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father." Sunday evening, 1 week later, Thomas, who missed the first appearance, is told by Jesus, "Reach your finger here and see my hands. Put your hand into my side." The same body, the same wounds. One person told not to touch, another person invited to press his hands into the wounds. What changed between those two moments? What does it mean that he had not yet ascended when he spoke to Mary? And where did he go between those two appearances? Today we are going to answer every one of those questions. And the answers are going to change how you understand the resurrection entirely. Mary Magdalene was delivered from 7 demons by Jesus. She had followed him from Galilee. She had stood at the foot of the cross when almost every male disciple had fled. She had watched the burial. She had come to the tomb before dawn on Sunday. John says while it was still dark. She watched Peter and John come and go. She stayed, alone, weeping. She looked inside the tomb and saw 2 angels who asked why she was weeping. She said, "They have taken my Lord, and I do not know where they have put him." She turned around and saw Jesus standing there and did not recognize him. She thought he was the gardener. Why did she not recognize him immediately? Ancient scholars have offered many answers. The darkness, the tears, the impossibility of seeing what you have already concluded cannot be there. But then he said one word, her name, Mary, and she knew, immediately, completely. She turned and cried, "Rabboni," my teacher, and she reached for him. The Greek word Jesus used is critical. He said, "Me mau haptu." The word haptu comes from haptomai, to touch, to cling, to fasten oneself to. But the grammatical form is a present imperative with the negative, meaning stop doing what you're already doing. Jesus was not saying, "Do not touch me" at all. He was saying, "Stop clinging to me," implying she had already taken hold of him and was holding on. This changes the scene entirely. Mary was not cautiously reaching toward him from a distance. She had already grabbed hold of the risen Jesus and was not letting go. The instruction was not a prohibition on touching. It was a request to release what she was already clutching. She had found him. She was not going to let him disappear again. And Jesus, gently, deliberately, with explanation, asked her to open her hands. Because what he was about to do required her to let go of the form of his presence she had always known. Jesus gave Mary a reason for his instruction. "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father." The word for links the two parts. The instruction not to cling is connected to the fact that the ascension has not yet happened, which raises the question that the text demands. What does the ascension have to do with Mary's clinging? Ancient theologians have wrestled with this connection for 2,000 years. The most compelling answer is this. Mary was clinging to the Jesus she had always known, the physical, present, touchable, locatable Jesus of Galilee and Jerusalem, the teacher she could follow, the rabbi who could be found. And Jesus was telling her, that form of my presence is about to change. The ascension is going to transform how I am present with my people. And if you cling to what you have always known, you will miss what is coming. Let go, because I'm going, so that something better can come. If this is already deeper than anything you have heard about Resurrection Morning, subscribe right now. We do this every single week. Hit the bell so you never miss what we find next in the Word. The instruction not to cling was immediately followed by a commission. Go to my brothers. Tell them I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Notice what Jesus did not say. He did not say my Father and your Father, as if they were identical relationships. He said, "My Father and your Father," distinguishing his relationship from theirs while including them in relationship with the same Father. For the first time in John's Gospel, Jesus called the disciples his brothers, not servants, not friends, though he had called them friends in chapter 15. Brothers. The resurrection had changed the relational category. And Mary, who came to the tomb looking for a body to anoint, was being sent as the first herald of the resurrection to the people who would carry that message to the world. She came to tend the dead. She was sent to announce the living. Between his appearance to Mary in the morning and his appearance to the 10 disciples in the locked room that evening, Jesus appeared multiple times. To the other women as they left the tomb. To Peter alone, an appearance Luke mentions but does not describe in detail. To 2 disciples on the road to Emmaus, walking with them, explaining the scriptures, breaking bread, and then vanishing from their sight. A full day of appearances across multiple locations. But Jesus told Mary he had not yet ascended. And in John 20 verse 17, he gave her a message to deliver about his ascension. Did the ascension happen between Sunday morning and Sunday evening? Some ancient theologians believed Jesus made a brief, private ascension to the Father on Resurrection Sunday itself, presenting his blood in the heavenly sanctuary, and then returned to the disciple for the 40 days of post-resurrection appearances before the final public ascension from the Mount of Olives. The evidence is not conclusive, but the possibility is extraordinary. The book of Hebrews provides the theological framework for understanding what may have happened on Resurrection Sunday between the garden appearance and the evening appearance. Hebrews chapter 9 verse 12. He did not enter by means of the blood of goats and calves, but he entered the most holy place once for all by his own blood, having obtained eternal redemption. The earthly high priest entered the most holy place on the Day of Atonement, carrying the blood of the sacrifice, presenting it before God. Jesus, as the eternal high priest, needed to present his own blood in the heavenly sanctuary. The sacrifice was made on Friday. The presentation may have happened on Sunday. Between the garden and the locked room, Jesus may have ascended to the Father, briefly, privately, to present the blood of the new covenant in the heavenly most holy place, which would explain precisely why he told Mary not to cling. He was about to go somewhere she could not follow yet, and why by Sunday evening he was back. When Jesus appeared to the 10 disciples on Sunday evening, he showed them his hands and his side. John says the disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. He showed the wounds. The disciples saw them. But the text does not say they touched them. Jesus showed the wounds as evidence, as proof, as the identification marks that confirmed this was the same body that was crucified on Friday. But Thomas was not in the room. And when the 10 told him, "We have seen the Lord," Thomas said, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." Thomas set his own terms for belief. Specific, physical, invasive. He did not want to see the wounds from a distance. He wanted to press his fingers into them. A week of silence followed. Jesus weiter. And then he came back. We are at the halfway point, and the most important question is still coming. Stay with us. Subscribe right now and share this video with someone who has ever felt like Thomas, demanding proof before they will believe. This is for them. 8 days after Resurrection Sunday, Jesus appeared again in the locked room. This time Thomas was present, and Jesus went directly to him. He did not wait for Thomas to approach. He did not make Thomas ask. He offered exactly what Thomas had demanded, without Thomas having to repeat the demand. Reach your finger here and see my hands. Reach your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe. The Greek word for stop doubting is me genu apistos, literally stop becoming unbelieving. Thomas had been in the process of becoming someone who did not believe. Jesus interrupted that process and offered not an argument, but a wound. Not a theological explanation, but a physical invitation. Cool me. Touch. See. The same hands and side he had shown the 10 disciples a week earlier, offered now for Thomas to press his fingers into. Here is the detail most people miss. Jesus invited Thomas to touch, but John does not record Thomas actually touching anything. The invitation was given. Thomas's response was, "My Lord and my God," the highest confession in all four Gospels. Higher than Peter's, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Thomas said, "My Lord and my God," the most direct declaration of the full divinity of Jesus in the entire New Testament. But the text does not say he put his fingers in the wounds. It says Jesus invited him to, and then Thomas confessed, which means the confession may have come not from the physical touch, but from the personal encounter. From Jesus knowing exactly what Thomas had said a week ago in a private conversation. From Jesus offering Thomas what he asked for before Thomas had to ask for it again. The evidence that changed Thomas may have been not the wounds themselves, but the fact that Jesus knew about them. Why the difference between Mary and Thomas? The answer is in what each person needed in their specific condition. Mary was clinging out of love and grief. Holding on to the form of Jesus' presence she had always known because she could not bear to lose it again. Jesus asked her to release, not because clinging was wrong, but because what she was holding on to was about to be transformed into something better. She needed to let go so she could receive what was coming. Thomas was demanding physical proof out of intellectual refusal. He had set the terms for his belief and was insisting on them. Jesus met those terms, not because demanding proof is the model of faith, but because Jesus meets people where they are. What Jesus would not allow was Mary holding onto the past form of his presence. What Jesus would not allow was Thomas remaining in unbelief when encounter was possible. Different conditions, different responses, the same attention, the same precision, the same love. After Thomas's confession, Jesus said something that reaches across 2,000 years and lands directly on every person reading this or watching this today. Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. This is the last beatitude Jesus ever spoke, the eighth and final blessing in the gospel record. And it was spoken for us, for every person who was not in that room, who did not see the wounds, who could not touch the side, who has only the testimony of those who were there. You are the specifically blessed generation in this passage. Thomas believed because he saw. You are invited into a faith that Jesus called blessed, precisely because it believes without the physical encounter Thomas required. The resurrection appearances ended, but Jesus declared the faith of those who would believe without them blessed. The phrase "I have not yet ascended," spoken on resurrection morning, reveals something important about the 40 days that followed. Jesus was not living with the disciples the way he had before the crucifixion. He appeared, sometimes to groups, sometimes to individuals, sometimes unexpectedly, sometimes by appointment. He ate with them, taught them, showed the wounds, and then was gone again. The 40 days were a transitional period between the physical, continuous, locatable presence of Jesus in Galilee and Jerusalem, and the permanent, internal, everywhere present presence of the Spirit that would come at Pentecost. Jesus was weaning the disciples off dependence on his physical form, so they could be ready for the greater presence he promised. "It is better for you that I go," he had told them in the upper room, "because if I do not go, the advocate will not come." The 40 days were God preparing people to receive something better than what they were releasing. We are almost at the end, and we have not yet talked about what Mary's open hands and Thomas's confession mean for your faith right now. Stay with us. Leave a comment below. Are you more like Mary or more like Thomas? We read every single one. And subscribe. The ascension, which Jesus told Mary was imminent on resurrection morning, resolved both encounters permanently. Mary was asked to release the physical form of his presence. Thomas was invited to believe through physical encounter one final time. And then, 40 days after the resurrection, Jesus ascended. His physical, locatable, touchable body went up and a cloud received him. And from that moment, he became present in a different way, through the Spirit, everywhere simultaneously, not limited to one location, one room, one garden, one beach, present in Rome and Jerusalem and Galilee and Ethiopia and every place the gospel would reach in every generation since. What Mary was asked to release was not Jesus. It was the limitation of Jesus. The ascension did not make him less present. It made him infinitely more present. The one she could cling to in a garden became the one who could never be lost, because he was everywhere, all the time, in everyone who received his Spirit. Mary and Thomas are both in you. Some days you are Mary. You have found Jesus. You have encountered something real, and you are clinging to the form of his presence you have always known, terrified that if you open your hands, he will be gone. And Jesus says to that part of you the same thing he said in the garden. Do not cling, not because I am leaving, because I am about to become present in a way that clinging will prevent you from receiving. Open your hands. The ascension is not loss. It is the transformation of presence from limited to limitless. And some days you are Thomas, demanding proof, setting terms, refusing to believe without the specific encounter you have decided you need. And Jesus comes back to that room too. He always comes back. He offers exactly what you asked for, not because demanding is the model, but because he refuses to let anyone he loves remain in unbelief when encounter is available. Reach your finger here. See my hands. The wounds are still real. The invitation is still open. And the blessing for everyone who believes without touching has never expired. If you're more Mary than Thomas today, open your hands. If you are more Thomas than Mary, he is already in the room. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss when we go this deep. Share this video with one person today. Leave a comment below. Which are you right now, Mary or Thomas? We will see you in the next one.